What's up guys? Today I'm going to take you through the exact strategy of how to beat bangers, but there's a twist. We're going to be doing it in an actual game. So today, me and Jack are going to be playing points against Drew and Sid, who are going to be playing like bangers. Throughout the points, I'm going to be coaching you through the exact strategy you need to beat these types of players. So if you're someone that learns better by example, this video is for you. Before we get started though, I want to quickly cover the top 5 tips that you need to know when you're playing against these types of players. So the first important thing you want to think about when you're playing against bangers is you want to try your best to keep them back. So when bangers are at the baseline, most of the time they're going to be going for super hard shots like this, and a lot of the time they're going to take those shots and try to move into the kitchen so they can take control of the point. So when you're playing them, it's your goal to keep them back, and throughout the points, I'm going to show you different ways that you can do that. The next thing you want to keep in mind when playing against bangers is that when they hit those hard shots, what you don't want to do is pop the ball up, because this lets them move forward and crush the ball. Throughout the points, there's a few times that I do this, and I'll explain to you how to prevent it from happening. The third thing you need to keep in mind is that when they're back hitting hard at you, you need to make sure that you have a good ready position and you're always ready for whatever they throw at you. So when I say good ready position, all I mean is that you have a wide base and you have your paddle out in front. I like to tell my students that they should have the tip of their paddle at around chin height, so that when the bangers hit hard, you don't have to move your paddle very far to get in position. What you don't want to do is have your paddle hanging low like this, so that you have to bring it up when the bangers go hard at you. So paddle up, wide base, and some people also like to say that you should lean your paddle slightly to the left so that it's easier to react to your backhand. The fourth thing that you need to keep in mind is that when you're playing a banger, you need to be ready to counterattack, which looks like that. So when they go hard at you, you're not always going to be able to use the kitchen. Sometimes your best bet is to go for an attack off their attack, which I do a bunch during the points. And the number 5 thing you need to keep in mind is that when you're playing bangers, you need to make sure you get in quickly off your return, because if you don't, they can blast it at your feet when you're in the transition zone, like Jack just did there, which can make me pop it up and let them take control. So what you want to do is hit your return and as quickly as possible get to the kitchen where you jump into your split step and have that good ready position we just talked about. Now guys, we're going to get into our points, but before that, make sure to subscribe. Odds are if you're watching this, you're part of the 80% of our viewers who aren't subscribed to our channel. So it really helps out if you head below the video and click the red subscribe button. This will help us grow our channel and it'll help you get better at pickleball because you'll get suggested all our videos. Now though, grab your popcorn and let's get into the points. So there's actually a good example of where I kept the ball low. He hit the ball really hard there, so there was a chance that I could have popped it up, which would have let him move forward, but I kept it low, which made it tough for Drew to hit the next shot hard. Another good example there of defending against the hard shots. We kept it low, but they were able to come in and we got into a firefight. When you're playing against bangers, really common to get into firefights like that. We got the upper hand there. What's important though is that you're ready for that. Oh. There I did a poor job of getting in quickly, which let Drew hit the ball at my feet. So make sure, remember, after the return when you're playing bangers, get into the kitchen as quickly as you can. There, Sid went right down the middle and I took the ball when realistically Jack should have probably taken the ball because he had the forehand there. So just know when you're playing bangers, you really need to be ready for one player to cover the middle. There, I didn't make the best decision and we lost the point. Ooh. There, Jack did a good job of absorbing the power and getting Drew off the court. You never want to just go right back into the banger strike zone, which is right here. You want to keep them on the move and keep them off balance, which is what Jack did there. There, Drew honestly just hit a really hard shot. When you're playing bangers, sometimes they hit really good shots. You're not going to win every point against them, even if you're following the strategy perfectly. So what you got to do is just go to the next point and keep trying. There, what happened, my first volley didn't really go how I wanted it to because I didn't have a firm wrist. So when you're up against bangers, it's one thing that you need to have your ready position good, but because the ball is coming at you faster, you actually want to have a firmer wrist on the paddle when you hit the volley. And with that firm wrist, you want to make sure that the ball hits the center of the paddle. On that volley, I kind of hit the ball off center, which let it go short, which let my opponents come in. With that firmer wrist, that'll help you hit the ball nice and deep, which is good if they're back. If they're trying to come forward though, which a lot of bangers do, there's a specific spot that you need to aim, which I'll cover later in the video. So as you can see, me and Jack are executing the strategy good, and we're winning most of the points. So if you're doing this right, and you're comfortable at handling the banger's harder shots, as you see, you should win most of the points. That's actually another example. I didn't really hit that ball in the center, and the reason was I didn't get to my good ready position before he hit the ball. I hit the ball right here, so I wasn't as prepared as I should have been to react to that hard ball, which made me hit off center. So having a good ready position where you have the wide base and you have your paddle out in front is what puts you into position to hit the ball in the center with the firm wrist. So there was a good example of why when you're playing bangers, it's really important that you try your best to get a deep return. There, Jack hit a shorter return, which sort of set up Sid to go really hard, and he honestly just hit a really great shot there. Not much I could have done, but yeah, when you're playing bangers, want to try your best to go for a deep return to prevent them from being able to take control like that. So that was a good example of where Sid, who's supposed to be a banger, went for a drop, then decided to be aggressive. So when you're playing a banger, obviously they're not going to go for a drive every single time. They're not going to be aggressive on every shot. So it can be a little tricky sometimes to know when they are going to be like that. That's where you just have to be ready for whatever they throw at you. They can be very unpredictable. You just got to be ready. Another fast hands battle against bangers. This is going to happen a ton. So you've got to be ready for it, and you've got to practice accordingly.
And one of the best ways to get this type of fast hands practice is with the Dink Master. With the Dink Master, you can do fast hands drills like this that'll prepare you to react to bangers' hard shots on the court so you aren't stunned by them in real games. And while it looks simple, the results you can get by doing this for just a few minutes a day are crazy. If you want to check out the Dink Master, head to the link below the video.
There, I actually did a better job of getting in off the return. I didn't get all the way in. What's important is that I stopped with a split step, which got me prepared for that hard drive that came at me, and I was able to keep it nice and low so that they couldn't do anything. So there was an example of when the bangers move forward, and to counter that, there's a very specific strategy that you need to go through. So to counter bangers from coming forward, you need to make sure that, one, you keep the ball low like we've been saying, but that you also get the ball to land around the depth of their feet. So if they're all the way back, you want to get the balls nice and deep, which is towards the depth of their feet. But as they're coming forward, your target should move forward with them. So if they're at the transition zone, I'm trying to get my volleys to land at the depth of their feet out to their sides to keep them off balance. So my best targets are here, right down the middle, and here. And what this does is it prevents them from crashing in and killing it like they just did in that last point. If they do successfully crash in though, you want to do something called the retreat method, which I'll go over later in the video. Oh, that was so bad. That was an example of a banger being unpredictable. I really wasn't ready for him to go hard there, so I hesitated and I got to that shot late. When you're playing a banger, you just need to be ready for whatever they throw at you. Even if they're going for a shot that's not necessarily what you'd expect, you got to be ready for it. Another great drive by Sid there. Jack didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes though, they just hit too good of a drive. You got to go to the next point. So there we actually got into a dinking rally, which if you can do against a banger, it doesn't happen super often, but if you can do it, a lot of the time, bangers are super uncomfortable in the situations. So if you can get a banger into the soft game, a lot of the time that's a great strategy to get them uncomfortable and take control of the point. So there was a great example of where Drew went for a really hard drive that I could have hit, but because I saw it was a little bit higher, I let it go and it went out. So when you're playing a banger, a lot of the time they're gonna go for super hard drives that are sailing long, and it can be really easy to hit them on accident. So the rule I like to follow is that if a banger hits a really hard drive and it's going above the height of my shoulder at an upward trajectory, I always let it fly. Oh, there was a good example of where Drew went for a hard drive, but I actually counterattacked at his partner. A lot of the time when you're playing a banger, you can take their drive, which may not be in the smartest situation, and use it to attack their partner, who might not have been ready for them to go for a drive, so you can take them by surprise and win the point. So there was a great example of the retreat method, which I talked about earlier. So once they got in that point, they went for speed ups. I didn't hit the best resets. So what we did was we moved back a little bit to give ourselves more time. And with that extra time, we were able to actually get back in with more resets and take control of the point. Wait 1 second, I'm out of breath. So just know that when you're playing a banger and they're putting pressure on you, it's okay to take a few steps back sometime to give yourself more time to get back into the point. Now guys, me and Jack are gonna be the serving team playing against the bangers as the returners. One thing that's important to know when bangers are returning is they're gonna be super aggressive and it can seem really hard to get into a dinking situation. So sometimes when you're serving against bangers, it actually makes more sense to be a little bit more like a banger yourself, which you'll see throughout these points. There was an example of where they made it hard for us to come in because they're hitting so hard. It's tough for us to get the ball in the kitchen with our drops and resets. As I said earlier in the video though, if you can get bangers into that soft game, sometimes they can get uncomfortable and you can get the point. There's an example of where normally a player probably wouldn't have been aggressive there, but because they were, we actually were forced to be aggressive too, so Jack had to do that counterattack, which got us the point. So just know when you're coming in against bangers, you need to be ready to counterattack, because a lot of the time, they're not going to get into a dinking situation, and you're going to need to bang with them. There's another example where I was forced to counterattack because Sid went for a hard shot. Luckily, I got it right at his feet, which got us the point. So if a banger's going hard at you and you have to counterattack, know your best target is right at their feet. There they were making it really hard for us to move in the beginning of the point by hitting those hard shots. Luckily though, we were using our resets well. So know when you're playing bangers, you're gonna need your resets because they're gonna go hard at you and you're going to want to hit the ball in the kitchen to prevent them from being more aggressive. So you need to have soft hands when you're playing a banger sometimes. I got in and I needed to use my counterattack yet again. So one of the most important shots to beating bangers is the counterattack, which I talk way more about in this next video.